day and it wasn't working. So, my name is Lana Labonte. Welcome to my living room. Welcome to my humble abode. I am here to uplift, support, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version of you were born to be. What you're here and meant to serve the world, because we all have unique gifts, and sometimes we need to be reminded by mirror reflections of those around us, because when we come together in community, in relationship, because life is all about relationship, we see ourselves through the interaction we have with others. We can't know ourselves without actually experiencing ourselves through another. This life, this is why, they talk about these people that can go off in the caves and meditate, the Buddhist monks and all these gurus. And it's like, yeah, but you got to apply that. You can go and hide out. You can play the escapism card, but that's not going to serve you in this life, because we're here to engage. We're here to have experience. We're here to interact with one another, support one another, serve one another, protect one another, to be good humans, to uplift each other, which is why I'm here. I know that we're here to have fun. We're here to play. When you were a little girl, little boy, when you were a kid, you wanted to be able to do the things you wanted to do without being told. You wanted freedom to enjoy, because as a child, you don't have all this conditioning, all this programming, all these ideas indoctrinated into you, filling you up to the brim, all this worthless information. Education is actually what dumbs us down, which is what sucks the life force out of us, so that our creative nature doesn't get nurtured. Our creative nature is nurturing, is to be nurtured and to see that nature nurtures. This education system that many of us have gone through is really about making you one like the other, getting along by going along, by fitting into the mold. But you weren't here to fit in, honey. You're here to stand out. You're here to be the best version of you. Like I said, you cannot fake the funk. You can try, but your soul will die. Your soul will suffer. It will shrivel up. Your heart will just ugh. This is what happens when the life force is sucked out of us. Hence why I like to travel. Because for me, it just reinvigorates me. It re-inspires me. It reminds me why I'm here. That when I go into other countries, other nations, I feel like a chameleon. I go in and I adapt and I become part of the environment, part of the landscape. I find my way into the community. I become a local, because I feel like that's what we're supposed to do, is to adapt to our environment with our version of who we are. Because you can technically, you are the actor, you are the director, you're the producer and the writer of your own life, your own show. Most people are playing extras in other people's shows as opposed to being the star in your own movie. And when you recognize, oh my goodness, I can be and do whatever I want. You're not here to prove yourself to anyone, although a lot of what we've all experienced in school was getting in trouble by authority figures, people in positions of power, because they don't have power in their own lives. They try to abuse it and take control over other people's lives. That's what you're seeing in the world, is a lot of people who don't have emotional control, let alone intelligence of life experience. You can be book smart, you can be educated. That doesn't make you intelligent and doesn't make you smart. But how do you apply it? Are you a good human? Are you serving your fellow man or woman? Or are you in that competitive nature? Everything's a fight. You go against anything that doesn't go with you. Because really that's a tuning into self. When we are aligned within ourselves, we will see everything in our life around us fall into line. It will naturally demonstrate and mirror what is going on within us. Where you're at is what you attract, energetically, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. So if you can recognize whatever's going on around you, whatever it is your focus kind of like zooms and beams in on, recognize that that in itself is telling you where you're at in your life. So like if you're struggling, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. It's so easy to be taken out of your peace. And here's the thing, it's all languaging. It's all the spell casting. We all want to be at peace. The world should be at peace. We don't want war. But when you allow something to trigger and charge you because it's unresolved and you're still fighting it, you're still resisting it. Hi, Shakti. When you allow something outside of you that's taking you out of source, get that? You're out of sorts because you're out of source. You're not in source. Source is within you. When you outsource, you get hijacked. You've given your power away to an outside, external person, place, or thing that doesn't belong to you, and you don't belong to it, because we do not own anything, nor are we owned. But the way the world is right now, there's a lot of owning going on. There's a lot of controlling going on. There's a lot of abusive perceived power going on. So when you are not aligned with yourself, it's easy to get out of line in yourself and to end up looking outside of yourself thinking that's going on out there, but it's really what's going on within here. The chaos you see out there is mirrored from what is really going on chaotically within you. I know this because I've been there, done that. I can only teach and speak from my personal experience. So what I speak about is what I know from personal hand experience. So a lot of people, they want to talk about things, but is it applicable? Is it applied in their life? Because we really don't want to be just talking nonsense or talking about stuff that doesn't apply to us if we don't know anything about it. Now, I have a lot of curiosity in my life. I do. My mind will go into and I'll be sharing more videos from my trip. It's like when I take you on the trip and I'm showing you where I'm going, and you're not seeing me, but you're seeing the lens through me, or seeing through the lens with me. I'm sharing and expressing like what's going on through my mind. Like the architecture when I travel, I am just in awe. Like giants had to have created half of this, because at least most of it, because there's just no way. Why would we construct a door so massive if we ourselves are not that tall? And then I also have that mindset, like maybe we came from giants and that we've actually been stunted in our growth. I mean, anything's possible. We're being dumbed down with our education. We're being chemically castrated through our food, our water, also our air that we breathe. Like everything's getting denatured. So maybe we did grow to the size of giants. Maybe we still can. I'm not even going to say that's impossible. Anything's possible. But how would we know? Because we've only been told and taught what they want us to know. That's what education is all about. It's not about what is truth. It's about an indoctrination. Here's a doctrine that a select group were trained on, and they're here to deliver it to us. Now, I'm sure they know a different doctrine. We have various different indoctrinations. And not everyone's aware that the indoctrination is part of creating a slave nation. So they will try to put things in you, infiltrate you, fill you in through castration, through manipulation, through you know, ideal, idealization, escape beliefs, escape culture, escape indoctrination daily. It's really questioning everything, isn't it? It's like recognizing that every word has duplicity, at least two meanings. So where I went off of the course. Yeah, history didn't matter because we're moving forward. But, in a certain sense, the history that we've been taught, we haven't learned from, or we wouldn't be where we're at again. We keep repeating history. Haven't you noticed that? So that's that old quote. Those who forget history are damned to repeat it. We're here to like wipe the slate clean, like really clear out all the old garbage, all the cobwebs, all the DNA imprints of our generations prior. Like we're here to clear the trauma from the past of our legacy. Like our legacy, every generation is meant to improve upon the last. We're here to clear their trauma, clear their unresolved issues, right? So I was saying, and then I zipped off in another direction, as I tend to always come back. So the idea of peace, we all want peace. No matter what's going on in the world, there's going to be something that's going to imbalance and something that's going to balance it out on the other end. This is a thing that most people tend to forget, is that where there's peace, I'm sure there's discord somewhere. Because this is the nature of this reality. It is duality. This reality is polarity. It's the yin and the yang. It's the feminine and the masculine. They play off of one another, but it's about the divine dance and keeping them in balance and check, right? Yeah, to free ourselves from the form. Because matter, what we give attention to, where attention goes, energy flows. We create and manifest it into matter. That is how powerful we are. But most people don't even realize their true potential and power because they're outsourcing it. They're giving it away. They are literally depleting themselves of life force energy by giving something else relevance outside of themselves. So there's something to be said about that old saying, if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. But what you mind will become form and into matter. So in previous videos, some of my older stuff, I was sharing explicitly, this is a very simple concept, but it's very hard for most people to wrap their heads around, that the power of manifestation, the law of attraction, the secret, it's not a secret, by the way. It's not taught in school. We're not empowered. We're instead of being empowered, we've been disempowered. They want to dismantle our true gnosis versus knowing. You just notice how it's a difference between a G and a K. Your gnosis, it's in you, it's intangible, it's not something you can articulate. Whereas knowing is, knowledge. It's the stuff that you just learned because you were taught that, or, you can have knowledge that is also part of your experience, but it's typically connected to knowledge of information that you collected over the years. It was probably fed to you, kind of deal. Whereas gnosis is something deeper. It's something deeper within you. So with this duplicity of languaging, and I go back to, it's this currency of thoughts, like literally energy, frequency, vibration. You want to know the secrets of the universe? It's all in the energy. It's the frequency we emit. What we emit, we also attract, we magnetize. So like attracts like. And sometimes, again, because of the nature of the duality, there's the polarity, and we will polarize, and we will attract, and we will repel. And it's all about that balance and knowing yourself so well that you recognize when you're swinging way over here on the pendulum versus swinging way over there, that the neutrality is the middle way, is between the two sides of that pendulum swinging. that your extreme polar opposite here versus there are two halves of the whole, and that when you come into the center, they become one. Adding them together equals the whole. You always want two halves of the whole. You want the full story. You become fragmented because a lot of times you favor one side versus the other. That's the fighting or complying. That's the going along to get along, or resisting and fighting and denying. We want both sides of the story because that's what makes the whole. If you don't have both sides of the story, you don't have the two halves to the whole, then you're fragmented. And like we say, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything. Because the thing is if you don't know both sides of the story, then you've got an incomplete story, which means you're going to make an what is it they say, uninformed decision. So when you notice there's a positive, there's going to be a negative. And when you see the poison, there's going to be the remedy and the cure. You know, go out in nature. If you find poison, there's always a remedy nearby, because that's the nature of nature. It's always going to balance out. There's always going to be predator, there's going to be prey. And just that word prey. Recognize if you're praying, it's possible you could get preyed upon. So you really gotta like go, oh shoot, am I putting so much outside of myself that I don't recognize it's not, I don't even recognize it's actually within me. The more you put outside of yourself, the more you're outsourcing rather than recognizing what is within you, that is your wholeness. All the fragments that many of us are still trying to collect because we've suppressed old traumas, old wounds, you know, the pains of the past, they come back to haunt us until we recognize and we reclaim them. Because even our shadow helps our light shine. The things that you don't want anybody to know about you, which is irrelevant, they don't need to know. It's about you owning and accepting that aspect of yourself. Because believe it or not, your pain becomes your purpose. And so whatever it is you're ashamed of, don't guilt yourself, don't shame yourself. Recognize that's still an aspect of you that makes you the beautiful character in this play, in your movie, this beautiful soul that incarnated in the human existence. You are the full palette of existence. And you need to recognize your own beauty, that when you own it, it doesn't own you. And therefore, others will see it in you too. The more you shine in all your flavors and all your colors, believe it or not, you're giving other people permission to do the same. Like, there are all sorts of different characters out there. You don't have to agree with them, but God bless them if they're standing in their truth. God bless them if they're not. Because ultimately, we're all trying to navigate our ship. Again, life is about relationship. We need another person to mirror back to us where we're at, because we can't experience ourselves by ourselves. It's actually kind of boring, don't you think? I mean, I like my own company, don't get me wrong. I'm good by myself, but I also like humans too. I like to observe them. I like to interact with them. I'm a curious person. I like to people watch. Like, especially when I travel, I will sit and just watch and just like, wow. Because most people are totally oblivious of themselves to the point where they don't recognize they're being watched, or even aware of their surroundings to the point where they may actually be a target. Like I said, could be preyed upon. So what I was alluding to regarding this, where attention goes, energy flows. If you don't mind, it won't matter. But when you do mind, you create it into form and into matter. See, here's the deal. It's very simple. But again, like I said, most people's minds can't wrap their heads around it, but your head is all in it. So we are so powerful as manifestors that our frequency, our energy, creates things into form with the currency of our thoughts. When your mind is in this, because the mind is a builder, it constructs a story. It takes the thoughts and creates a story. That is the building going on in the mind. And with that energy and the frequency and the currency, because where attention goes, energy flows, you literally are paying for your experience through the currency of your thoughts. So your mind is technically the bank. We literally are the trading commodity. We are the data. We are the currency in this reality. That with the currency of your bank, your mind, where attention goes, energy flows, you can create whatever you want. You can create whatever you don't think you want either. The reality is that you can create what you don't want also. Because even when you think you're not thinking about what you don't want, most people are doing more of that building with the mind. They're focusing more on what they don't want, because this reality, especially with the indoctrination, the way that the system has been over these years, it gets you to focus on more of the don'ts than the do's. And when you can get clear and concise on your mindset and your thoughts and actually own and recognize, this is what meditation does. Meditation allows you to see the unconscious program that's running in the background. The record player that's deepening the grooves with that needle. It's going deeper into the grooves. Every time it goes through and through and through. Beliefs are simply thoughts you continue to think and you never question. But beliefs also don't always serve. Sometimes we need to confront them and actually create new ones. So as we create through the currency of our thoughts, the more I don't want this to happen, like listen to your languaging. You are literally creating your life through the spell casting of your language, the tongue, the finger. These are extensions like wands. You wave the tongue, the lingam, la lingua. When you think it, when you speak it, when you point a finger, you are wielding it. You are creating it. You're more powerful than you give yourself credit, and probably more powerful than you could ever imagine. So as we think and then we speak and put into action, whatever it is you don't want, then the universe doesn't hear the word don't, people. It notices where your attention is gravitating to. And as I love this story around when the Post-it notes first were popular in the very beginning, my mother wrote down on a piece of a yellow sticky note, don't look where you don't want to go. This is when I was like in like 1989, okay? I was still in my freshman year in high school. My mother writes down, don't look where you don't want to go. She crosses out the don't. And it's simply clear and concise. And this is how my mother raised me and my sisters. Sometimes it was annoying and it was frustrating, but I get it. I can connect the dots. I can see the purpose in all of it. That when you get clear and concise, look where you don't look where you don't want to go. Look where you want to go. Could you get any more direct? Beating around the bush with the don'ts get you more of the don'ts. Remove the don't, get clear and concise, and you have a direct beeline for exactly what it is you desire and wish to fulfill in this life, to create whatever it is that you desire, your legacy. Like, what is your legacy? Is it to be in this whiny mode of, I don't want this, and this happens to me? Like, keep telling those stories and you're recreating it and you're reinforcing that life. And so all of the, yeah, exactly. So self-awareness, let me see if I can hold that. Hold on. Cancel. Oh, see, sometimes live chat. Okay. So self-awareness takes us to self-respect. Suddenly self-control looks attractive and self-discipline looks like a good time. That's a beautiful way to put it, because ultimately it is all self. There is nothing outside of you. It is all within you. Everything it is you need begins with self. And the self is the small s and the big S. The mind is the little s. The big S is the soul self. It is the higher divine sacred source of self. It is the higher you, the higher mind, the one that observes what goes on, but also is participating behind the scenes. It's the knowing with the G, the gnosis. So in this reality of life, you have to be in awareness of your thoughts, because if you're not in awareness of your thoughts, you are the victim of your own choosing and creating, conscious or unconscious. So in your consciousness, the more awareness that you have around the program, the ideation, all the ideas that come to creation, the more in your awareness you can be, the more in control of your life, the more masterful. That's called self-mastery. That is the reality that most people do want, but it also takes personal accountability and responsibility for every choice you've made, and recognizing that no matter what has happened in your life, you are responsible for you. With the exception of when we're young children and having security, safety, and the modeling of healthy communication and expression, but also the nurturing that allows us to find what works for us. Like, we didn't come with the manual, although we have a blueprint and it's within us. We have a map of ourselves, but you have to go within. It's not outside of you. Oh, I love that. Well, the irony is we have free will and we have free choice, do we? That's something to be questioned as well. So in the grand scheme of where we're at, if you have to ask yourself if it's okay, am I going to get in trouble? It's just simple things like, the habituation of our life, of the indoctrination of this culture, this steeping pot of man-made rules, like people policing one another over rules that man created. Yet, see, here's the irony is people will say they don't like something, but they'll be the first ones to defend it. Why? Because it's comfortable. And this is Stockholm syndrome. This is also like codependency. This is the most codependent we've ever been in all of creation, of all of time. We literally, and this is something I was thinking about earlier, and I've been talking about this with another friend. I said, people don't understand the etymology of languages and words. That when you break down words, I used to have phonics when I was in school. Then they had this program when they took it out of school called Hooked on Phonics. And I'm over here going, we used to learn phonics. It was breaking down and learning the root of the word. It was learning about languaging, understanding the root origins, and also breaking it down, the etymology. Where did it come from? So with regards to languages and spell casting, like every word you use has some meaning, and it is literally a vibration and an energy. It has a color, it has a song, that it ripples through the frequencies of the collective, that we all affect one another. So if I'm working on me, I know I'm selfish. I know that's going to help you too. And if you're working on you, then that's helping me too. Like, we are all so interwoven, and you cannot separate us. It may not look like we're connected, but we are. It's energetic. And in this amazing creation that we have here in this world, we literally agreed upon what the form would look like, what a spoon would look like, what a straw and a container and a glass. Like, we all collectively decided this would be in matter, this would be form. There'd be liquid, there'd be solids. It's super fascinating, but most people don't get it. It's just because we're like in this habituation. And if you're in survival mode because of all these distractions out in the world, survival mode takes you out of recognizing what's really happening in front of your face in your own life, in your own reality. So if you're distracted by trying to get along, trying to survive, you know, the daily things of simple things everyone deserves access to, like having access to free water and energy and electric. Like, these are basics. Nobody should have to worry about, you know, getting by, having enough. There's more than enough. There's infinite, like, resources available to us. But in this crazy world, they're being withheld from us, being told, oh, those are limited, so therefore you're limited. That's untrue. They've also taught us that we're limited in our abilities and our talents and our gifts, and that's bullshit. I call bullshit on that. Like, we really don't know our full potential because we've been told we didn't have as much as we thought we did. When we're kids, believe it or not, children understand. I still remember the naivete of my childhood, right? So, like, as a child has more, they're able to still see beyond the veil, especially up until the age of 6 or 7. That child, and you were once that child, remembers their past, is able to still see the connection to source. Like, I used to get in trouble for asking questions in Catholic school when I was in religion class. Like, in the Bible, I said, wait, he says, don't worship me within 4 walls. Like, this doesn't make sense. This is hypocritical. It doesn't. As a child, I'm over here calling out bullshit, and they did not like that. Hi, Irene. So, and yes, this is all the world's a stage. So I want you to consider something. Why do we have governments? Do you understand the actual etymology breakdown of the word government? Like, such an insult to us as humans that we would outsource to those who rule over the mind. Government translates to govern, rule over, you know? Ment means mind. So why do we even have a government? Do we really want them ruling over our mind? I think it's pretty fucked up. Just saying. And I don't apologize for saying that. Why? Because I don't believe I agreed to this. I honestly believe that it was a Jedi mind trick. This is the 𝐕𝐞𝐭𝐞𝐫, the mind virus, where they tricked us all into going along, just like during the days of the witch hunts when they were saying, oh, we're hunting witches, so we need you to prove that you're not a witch. Like, this is the trauma of humanity that we're still dealing with. You have to prove yourself innocent because we say you're guilty. That's not a system for us. That's a system against us. Our true system is, if I did something wrong against you, show me, prove it to me. Don't tell me I need to prove myself innocent. That's the inversion and perversion of the system against us. They've lied about everything. They've tricked us by the languaging and the casting of the spells with the words that they have utilized, oh so well, against us. So again, government. Why do we want a government? Why are people so quick to defend it? Because that's all they've known, and they have a fear of authority. I don't have a fear of authority. I have an issue with authority because I did not grant them authority over me. And see, this is where people will say, don't understand. You want to understand. You want to overstand. You don't stand under, even that languaging. 𝐕𝐿𝐴, I've heard that. I like 𝐕𝐿𝐴. He's got some great content. I don't know that I fully agree with the soul trap theory. There's a lot of theories out there. I don't want to give into a theory because that's a disempowerment too. So if you buy into something, anything, always question everything. This is the way I was raised. This is my personal sharing, is that my parents, as much as sometimes we could be infuriating in my family, but we love each other and we're the first ones to support and defend each other. But yes, we are the authority, we the people. But most people don't remember that we are the ones in charge, yet we've handed it over to those who rule the mind. I don't recall agreeing to that. In fact, I don't agree with it, which is why I'm in the process of correcting my status, as we'll call it, because they need to be put on notice that that system doesn't apply to me. Why? Because that system is against me. It was not designed for me. It was designed to be used against me. That's a trespass against us. Think about that. So it's not God's law, it's man's law. God supposedly made us in his image or her image or God's image, yet man has been trying to make God in his image so that he could elevate himself higher. And this is part of the fuckery of this realm. And I don't know if it's always been this way, but I feel like a time change, a parallel reality occurred at some point, because there's a lot of things that just, whoo, don't make sense. In fact, the inversions and perversions have gotten so bad and out of hand, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Now we're seeing history pop up in our faces, and we're all questioning, is that real? Did we really even see that? Was that really the truth ever to begin with? That the history we've been told is not her story. It is not our story. That the mystery was the mistress, the mystic, her story was really the mystery. And the truth is they've tried to suppress it. I got a whole lot more on that one, because I was just speaking with somebody about how, interestingly enough, there's a lot of occult stuff where you see a lot of the transhumanism and the trans whatevers, you know what I mean? Like, as women, as biological women, for myself, I can speak, as a biological woman, why is it that there have been all of these movements to continually keep us suppressed, keep us oppressed, and also try to override and become just like us? Like, there is a cult belief that being a woman is very powerful, but yet they don't want the biological woman to have the power that she innately has within her. Like, to try to obliterate and totally remove us from the picture, which is totally impossible, by the way. It's this whole idolatry of the beast, the androgynous. And it's not to say that the androgynous is not natural. See, this is where I think there was a perversion along the way. My grandmother was a nurse, and she used to say to my dad, you would be surprised how many children are born hermaphroditic, and the doctor decides which sex they will be. And yeah, it's pretty bizarre, right? And so if you imagine that everybody wants to say, well, there's two biological sexes. Well, I think we're forgetting that there is hermaphroditism, and we need to honor that. And because it exists. I mean, why would it exist in nature? Why would it even happen if it wasn't a part of nature? So this idea of sex, which it is not sex. See, this is another perversion too, by the way. When I hear, what's your sex? It's like, I'm sorry, I'm not having intercourse. To me, when they say, what's your sex? No, they mean what is your biological gender? Used to be, and as far as I remember from as way back as I can go, it used to be, what's your gender? So again, the perversion and the whole, what do they call it? The starts with an M. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forget. The butterfly effect thing, that, you know, where something changed in the past. I can't believe it's escaping me. It doesn't matter. Basically, some of us remember history as a certain way, and other people remember it a different way. And so I remember gender. It was, what's your gender? And then all of a sudden, somewhere along the way, they perverted it and started putting sex. But sex is your orientation. It is a physical happening, not metamorphosis. It's the it's basically when you, like, people remember the Monopoly guy with the single, what is it called? The thing in his eye and the hat on his head. And some people don't remember him having the thing on his eye. It's the certain, oh gosh, I'm forgetting words. It's not transformation. It's the Mandela effect. It's the Mandela effect, okay? Where somewhere, probably using CERN, or I have another theory on this too. They could have used CERN and changed things by changing time. Or what if, just say, just my theory, because they're not that clever and they use the same playbook and they're pretty, it's not the butterfly effect, it's Mandela effect. So basically what happens is, you know, when you live in different parts of the US, for example, some of us will say, you know, would you like a bag with your groceries? Would you like a sack with your groceries in other areas? Or would you like a soda? Or would you like a pop? Would you like a Pepsi or would you like a Coke? You see what I'm saying? Like some people use different slang or terminology to mean the same thing. And it depends on where you grew up and what regions you're from. And just like you hear different accents and people speaking. So you can tell the difference between a person from the north to the south to the east to the west in different areas, different states. And there's different, like, you know, languaging. It's just the pitch, the tone, the, you know, the accentuation of the words. So with that said, the Mandela effect could also potentially be where they told or showed things differently in one area than they did in another. It's possible. And it could be, I mean, we could be living in the Truman Show. So they could have changed things anywhere along the way too. I mean, especially because of the fact that we have technology of computers. And you can just as easily print up new books and make them look like old books. So this could all be Jedi mind trick propaganda throughout all of it, you know? It's just, to me, it's just like, hey, you don't know what they're capable of. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you know? Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. The Wizard of Oz is busy. He's got a lot of stuff going on. And any and every little distraction, they can get you to look over here and not over there. I mean, what really is relevant to our lives? And in all retrospect, too, every distraction is designed to keep you from living your life. So the more we feed them our energy and our attention, we're feeding them our manifestation and creation power, too. So the fear around what they're going to do reinforces it, too. Just like every time we get together in group, in community, whether it's a soccer game, a football game, a basketball game, a sports team, whatever it is, a music festival, you know, whatever it is that you attend in big groups, they're feeding off of those energies because that's like big battery power. So when you see these, even events where organizations get together, you know, prayer and this, that, and the other, those are all different various forms of harnessing and creating strong, powerful manifestation energy, which is why it's so important to really know thyself, to really know what your inner workings are, because what is going on within you, you're putting out there in the world. I love that. With me, they're starving. You know, and I have my moments where I know I'm feeding it. Like I get caught up in something. It's very much, it's much less now than it ever was. But I understand we have a stream of consciousness that we all participate in. We all receive from it and we all actually feed into it. Like when you hear certain thoughts, sometimes you're like, whoa, what was that? That's not mine. That's not the way I think. Remind yourself that you are a part of a collective consciousness. So you're always giving and receiving to that stream. You are a part of it, and it is a part of you. We influence one another. So when you get a drop in, like really be willing to go, is that even mine? Always question it. And I go back to question everything you think you know, you've been told, what you have always thought. Question all of it. Why? Because you got nothing to lose. And questioning it also gets the wheels turning. Like you have to challenge yourself. If you're not challenging yourself, trust me, somebody else will. That's the beauty of this life, is it is literally a receptive dance of energies. And when you do not challenge yourself in a way to grow, the universe will send somebody else to you to help you along. Especially when you're not facing the inner demons and the old traumas. Like your inner child, if you've watched my videos before, your inner child has a way of like going, hey, I'm feeling neglected in here. What the hell? You're not giving me attention. So when you throw a temper tantrum, that's essentially, that's your inner child blowing up on the outside. That's you imploding. And that's also the inability to regulate your emotions. So when you get out of line and you, again, because you're not aligned, that's what that happens. The more we fall out of line with ourselves is because we're not aligned within. And so when our inner child starts to throw that temper tantrum that you end up acting out, it's because essentially your inner child is saying, hey, I'm over here suffocating. I'm starving for your attention. I'm struggling. And so like when you catch yourself in those moments, those are the most important pivotal moments where you get a chance to respond instead of react, to take a deep breath. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What is going on? Is there something? What do you need? Oh, we need to play. We need to get out in nature. We need to move our bodies. 9 times out of 10, it's about movement. If you're going out of your mind, it's because you need to get in your body. Literally, when you're out of your mind, it's because you're out of touch with your body. So the more present you can be with your physical body and you can move it and get out there and groove it, the more you can also remove a lot of the deep grooves of your inner consciousness, of your belief systems and all that gobbledygook, because it gets sticky in there, that all this old junk that we're carrying around, we move it out like stagnant energy. Energy's supposed to stay in motion. If we're not physically moving, we're not shifting and shaking that shit out. And then we wonder why we act out. Because guess what? We got to get shit out. The only reason you act out is because you got shit you got to get out. I can go on and on and on about this, but that's why I'm in the process of creating my membership, and it'll be after the first of the year. I'm just putting that little nugget out there right now because I believe we need more of that. And in order for us to evolve, we need a community where we can also help collectively support one another. And because there are tools, and I can't share all that here. And it's something that needs to also be considered sacred, because believe it or not, there's a reason why a lot of teachings were held in sacredness and secret too, because not everybody respects them. And it's interesting because as yoga, as a lot of meditative practices have been shared openly, and they used to say, you know, you had to go through certain trials and tribulations to be able to even get one mantra, like one word, you know, or to learn a meditation, or to learn a certain yogic posture, whatever it was. Throughout the ages, you had to prove yourself, essentially. I mean, is this anything new? This constant proving ourselves worthy? And there seems to be some sacredness to where it is actually important to keep things to yourself, to not necessarily go out there and outsource and give away your power. Because when people know what you're doing, then they start kind of like infiltrating you. And believe it or not, depending on how strong you are in your own resilience and your own self, they might be casting spells on you. You may, and they may not even know it. That's the other irony. And the whole prey upon someone who's praying. Like religion teaches us to pray as if we're in lack. You're not in lack. You don't need to pray. What you need to do is strengthen your magnetic field and attract, so that when you attract where you're at, that is stronger than anything you could think. So we really want sacredness in our life. We want to honor and respect and cherish. But see, when things are free and they're given out, people don't respect or appreciate them. Haven't you noticed that? Like the average person will download free material, or they'll see something and say, oh, that's okay, I can do it for free. Yeah, but you don't have any discipline, and so therefore you're probably going to fall flat on your face. Now, this is just me. I've always paid for coaches. I've done a whole lot of events and workshops and trainings and this, that, and the other. I've spent a whole lot of money working on me. So I understand the investment and the time and the energy, and I understand how important it is to value yourself. So you put your money in yourself. You invest in you, because that's the best investment you'll ever make, is when you invest in yourself, in your evolution, your growth. Because that is how you grow, is when you value yourself, you put some money on it. Why? Because if you don't, nobody else will. If you don't value yourself, what makes you think other people are going to value you? If you don't step it up, level it up in your own life, others are going to walk over you. People take advantage of you. If you're always available, you're always free to people, and they're taking advantage of you, it's because you have not valued yourself. And I'm speaking from personal experience, because I am always available to all the people, or that was an old story. And, you know, I do admit there was a point where I realized, holy shit, these people don't appreciate it. I think I need to take that energy back and stop outsourcing, giving away what is not appreciated. And even when I was first in Kundalini yoga teacher training way back, the interesting thing is there has to be an equal exchange of energy. Reciprocity is very important. If you walk in and you're empty-handed and you have nothing to give, then you will walk away empty-handed. And so this is the reality. It's not always currency as a form of money, but there has to be a receptivity and some flow between you and another individual. Because if energy doesn't stay in motion, and see, here's the thing that people forget. The money that goes out comes back in. When you're willing to put it out there, you are saying, I trust in the value of this, that it's gonna come back 100 times more. But when you hold and you hoard your money, it can't grow. It gets stuck, it gets stagnant, just like we do. So again, it's about movement and flow, and energy has to move. And money is just a form of energy. It is a value that we humans, ironically, you know, a lot of people say, oh, money's the root of all evil. No, actually the worship of it is. And that money's simply a tool that we have agreed upon with a certain value. Now, when people put money down, that just shows they don't value themselves and they don't recognize their own worth. And it's showing lack as well. Use the magician hiding inside your imagination, overly cleverly positioned alongside you, wishing you'd play. We are all magicians. We are all magic. We are all alchemists. It's up to us to take the energy and to alchemize it into something new. It's just a transformation of energy. So again, I mean, like when I hear people telling the victimhood story or the lack story, I just realize I have compassion, but I'm the first person to speak about languaging. Like, I will call myself the linguistics mystics. I am the mistress of linguistics because I love language. I love words because I recognize the power in them. I also recognize the play in them. They literally are part of the script, part of the play. And that when you start to see the divinity in it, because there's divinity in the languaging, that if you can recognize the duplicitousness of languaging, then you start to see there's two halves to the story. And so when you learn that there is a prey and then there is a prey, then you start to go, oh, I have to be much more concerted and concise and aware, right? Truth is something that has to be felt. It is not something you think, first off. I know a lot of people like to be all heady in their heads about things, but truth is actually a Gnostic in every cell of your being. That's why kinesiology is so popular. And that if you want to know your truth, you can use kinesiology because that's an extension of visualization of yourself, because your body is an instrument. literally a musical instrument, because again, energy, vibration, frequency. This is your frequency. This is your currency. And it is how you show up into the world and how the world will show up to you. So if you start to get in tune with your own body, see, there's so much stuff I can share. When you become tuned into your body, literally, think about that. Think of the languaging. Tuning up, tuning in. It's the same thing with language. It's the same thing with your musical instruments. You got to tune them up. You got to tune into them. This is a musical instrument. You have to tune it up. You have to tune into it. You have to keep it tuned up as well. Like you need to treat your body as a temple, because that's what it is. It houses your soul. And it does so much more. And it's much more capable than we realize to heal itself. So the last time I did a live, I was in Spain. I didn't have a chance to do another one before I left Europe, but I have to share this story because this is kind of comical. On, not this past, but the Sunday night before, I was eating something and I was in my room and all of a sudden I felt something come out of my tooth. I was like, oh no, you're kidding me. My tooth filling fell out. So my local holistic dentist insisted that I needed, because she claimed the hole was too big in my tooth, which I've never heard of this, but I didn't question it because I thought, okay, well, she's the dentist. I was trusting, I was outsourcing. Even I sometimes get tripped up and let down my guard. She told me the hole was too big, so she put out for, they do like a mold and they have a piece made to fit your tooth. And so in my tooth, she had gotten this piece, which was like an implant for the filling because she claimed it was too thick, too big, but it kept on catching. This is the same tooth that it fell out in 2019. So she redid the whole thing. It had fallen out 3 times, and mostly because it didn't quite fit properly. In fact, every time I used the dental floss, it was catching. I called it the snaggle tooth because I could touch it with my tongue and it felt like it was uneven. It wasn't made properly. It didn't fit right. Ultimately, I feel like I paid a whole hell of a lot of money. I paid over $1,000 for that damn thing. And this was my wake up, and I'm so grateful to the universe for having it happen when I was in Spain. Here's why. This country is just disgusting as far as medical, first off. I was in Spain. This falls out. I was supposed to check out of my hotel on Tuesday morning. And all I could think of was, I need to go see a dentist. Okay, well, I've lived in Europe before, so I already know that the system is pretty simple. You go make yourself an appointment. So I went on Google and I found myself a dentist. I had a 5 o'clock in the evening appointment on the Monday. They did all of my x-rays. They took pictures. And then didn't even use that implant, thank God, though, because in the end, that was just a pain in the ass. It was worthless. It cost me €80. That's less than $100 to have all the x-rays and the pictures and the filling done. And the dentist said to me, I'm not even going to use that piece, so you can put that away. He just filled it in with the regular filling. And it was a resin filling, not a mercury filling or anything like that. And these are the same materials they use here. So you see the markup cost from thousands of dollars versus €80. And I didn't have to present any insurance. This was just all out of pocket. I went to Italy, where I used to get my teeth done over there on the economy as well. And I never paid, I don't know, I might have paid around the same amount. I might have even paid more in Italy. And that was back when I was living there in 2006, 7-ish. That's when I had dental work over there done, was probably 2006 or 7. And so anyway, I got to Italy on Saturday last weekend, and I was sharing with my Italian friends, hey, I got my teeth done and it only cost me €80. I was really shocked. And they said, oh my gosh, that's cheap. Even in Naples, Italy, I was being told it would have cost me anywhere from 300 up to €1,000. I was like, what happened in Italy? Like, I actually turned to my friend and I said, I feel like the Americas, I feel like the United States like infested other countries, because I said, you know, Italy taught me, do you live to work or do you work to live? And now I'm here in Italy and I'm looking around and I'm seeing people frustrated and just not happy like they used to be. Like there's been like I mean, there's some beauty, and I still see the beauty. I can always see the beauty. But I was looking and going, wow, it's almost like the people, and I know a lot of people have a lot of resentment over these past few years. There's this palpable heaviness of resentment for not speaking up, not defending, not pushing back against the overreach of governments, okay? And for those of us who did speak up, or we didn't comply, or we went against the grain, let's say, it's almost like holding against us, you know, what we were willing to stay strong with. And so it's an interesting dynamic to witness, because when I lived in Naples, it wasn't like that. I can't speak to people who don't have the money. I really can't, because there's always a way. This is my life. I've always found a way, so I don't understand how people can't find a way. You just have to stop this mindset, this lack mentality that I don't have enough or this person doesn't have enough. If someone who doesn't have the money, there's always a resource. There's always something available. You just have to think outside the box. That's one thing I've learned in my life. Like when I was younger, my mother was one of the most resourceful women I know. And I am the descent of this great woman. Like, here's the bottom line. If you need something bad enough, you will find a way. If it's important enough to you, you will find a way. When I was younger with me and my sisters, my mother, we didn't have any money. My mother knew how to use the system to her advantage, because back in the day, welfare and all the social services, they weren't considered a bad thing, because they were meant to be used by the people, because they're for the people. It's not sucking off the tit. It's actually what it was designed to do. The lifelong welfare recipients, now that's not the way it was meant to be utilized. But see, when they took the woman out of the home to gain more taxes, that's what really screwed women up, screwed the home up, because then it was impossible to be able to pay for childcare at the same time, because the amount of money you were paying for childcare was pretty much what you were going to make when you went to work. It didn't make sense. That whole system was a setup, by the way. So my mother, she not only did she know how to utilize the system, but she knew resourcefully, because that's how she was raised, where to go, who to ask, and how to get things done, and how to stretch a dollar, how to make ends meet, literally. Like, you will find ways to get what you need. If it's important enough to you, you will find a way. And for people who don't want to work, I'm sorry to tell you, sometimes you gotta suck it up, baby. I've had to do things I didn't want to do in my life. I've had to do things on my own because I didn't have help. You know, I've been single most of my life, and I've also been the one who's been doing it all. So I'm not over here trying to play a martyr, but I'm also not turning around and trying to say it's easy either. Like, you got to find the balance in yourself, and you got to be careful about the story you're telling, because if you think you're in lack, you'll create more of that lack. What you think you're missing isn't missing you, it's you pushing it away. Because when we pray for it, we're actually pushing it away. We're saying we don't have it. That's where gratitude comes in. Be grateful for more of what you have, and that will bring more of that to you too. So my mother, she could make things happen. There were times I was like, I don't know how she did it. I really don't. But she was amazing. She would do things just to make sure that we children were happy, and that even when we didn't have the money, she'd pay for things that probably shouldn't have been paid for. I'm not saying she was the best with money all the time. And the same with my dad. My dad was actually the opposite. I love you, Dad. But Dad would be, you know, like this idea that there wasn't enough. And I'm like, Dad, you've got plenty. He was an only child. He didn't really want for anything. But see, sometimes people think that, especially growing up in the Great Depression and, you know, the child of Great Depression, this idea that there's never enough is because you got blinders on. There is an infinite supply out there. We're not competing with one another, though that's the way the system has set us up, is this idea that we need to be against one another instead of for one another. Do you know how much more productive and like at peace we would be if we worked more together as opposed to against one another? Like always worried that someone's going to take advantage of us, and then not recognizing that that same mindset is that you're probably taking advantage of something. You got to own the mindset before you can own your life. You want to master your life, you have to master your mind, not outsource to the government, the ones who rule over your mind, because isn't that a crazy mind fuck? Is the idea that we've got a system in place that is not our system for us, it's against us. It's to rule over our mind, people. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, just remind yourself. Remind. I'll straight up tell you, when I pushed go live, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to talk about, but it just seems to be rolling off my tongue. So, and this is the truth of where we're at in the world today. I mean, just think of it from this perspective. I follow a lot of people in regards to correcting your status. It's not even about correcting your status. It's about recognizing you got nothing to fight. You can't fight against a system that doesn't even have living entities. They're all fictional characters. Yet people are defending the fiction and using it against one another in the humans living, breathing. Like, for example, I'm a living, breathing human. The idea that I have to show you proof of my identity is absurdity. I'm standing in front of you. I am who I say I am. Yet you want me to show a million forms of identification and prove who I am. That's not you. That's you defending the system that's fictional. Think about this. The system itself is fictional, and it's being used against you to constantly prove yourself to it. But yet it's never materialized as a human to you. It's just humans defending a fake, defunct government. Isn't that some crazy Jedi mind trick? Until we all correct our status and put the system on notice that we will no longer allow it to even be in our space, because ultimately that's for the public sector. When it comes to the private sector, that is between you and another human being, and they do not belong there. So when you are operating in the private sector, that entity does not exist, because it's mano a mano, it's human to human, living, breathing individuals working together. And you don't have to agree upon a monetary amount. You can do a barter. You can do whatever the hell you want. You don't need the middleman. And the middleman literally wants to get in your mind and fuck with it. That's what government is all about. It is the definition of narcissism. Literally infiltrating to fuck with your mind. Make you feel like the crazy person, constantly striving to prove yourself. And they get off on that shit. So try to remember that. Anytime you go to court and it's the state against you, your legal name, you just walking in there shows that you don't understand. Yeah, you understand. You'll stand under them versus you don't overstand. You don't realize that the whole system is designed to where you don't even have to go there. You really don't. Because what you can turn around and will totally Jedi mind trick them, it'll cause them to freak out like, oh, what? So you're like, yeah, I'll show up when you produce this fictional character on paper in person. And they can't do it. They cannot do it. It's impossible. Why? Because that's just a piece of paper. It's fake. It's fictional. It means it doesn't exist in physical form. Yet all of these humans, these living, breathing humans, are defending a make-believe character. And even our so-called name that is being utilized as a social security number, a stock exchange number, that we are stock on the stock market, that they literally are using us as chattel, that we are living, breathing entities, and we are living, breathing humans, and they are entities trying to feed our fuel, feed off of us. But they use us to do their bidding, to do their dirty work. And this is the hidden hand. Once again, it never gets its hand dirty. It has everybody else doing its bidding. That is insanity. The other insanity is I was having a conversation with my sister the other day that I really appreciate. You ever see homeless, right? Like I've always said, people don't understand. A lot of people that are homeless have chosen to be homeless. And it's because they don't want to be in the system. They literally want to unplug from it and they don't know the system to where they can utilize it for their own benefit and get out of it. Most people don't realize that it isn't our system. So therefore it's just people have tacitly agreed and been tricked into going along with it. That when you turn around and you see the homeless people that are choosing to be homeless, they don't want to be part of that. It's no different than gypsies. Okay, so this is where my sister and I were having the conversation. See, there's been such a negative connotation around gypsies and nomads and the people that live in the streets and this, that, and the other. And you know why? And we should not look down on them. Here's why. Because they have to be demonized by the government because the government can't control them. And that makes them a threat to their system. If we were all gypsies with, outside of the system, they couldn't do a damn thing. I'm just using this hypothetically. But if we all exited their system, then their system would fall. The system would crash. But this is where we hit that like, ooh, I don't know. It's because most people are so codependent upon the system because that's all they know. And it requires learning another language, which is very simple, honestly, and recognizing the tripping up, the trick of the game, because it's really their game we're playing into, that it takes personal responsibility and accountability. And most people, they want somebody to kind of like be their daddy, be their, their watch keeper, which they're really not. Nothing they do supports or serves us. If anything, it's more about controlling us further. Every time you turn around, there's another layer. I mean, ever since what happened on September 11 of, was it 2001? It's like ever since then, they've been slowly ripping more of our rights and our liberties away. These are God-given, inalienable rights. They're not defending them. They're trying to steal them. They're trying to take them. They're trying to have us give them over freely because technically they can't take them, but you can give them away. And that's essentially what the system is designed to do. And that's what it's had us doing all along. And so this is me over here going, wow, now I'm really seeing it. And the more you start to learn the languaging and you start to see the irony and the spell casting through the language, the letters, the words, all of this, you start to see it even further. And you start to, I mean, for me, I see patterns, I connect dots. I'm a pattern disruptor. This is just how I came in. Through personal experience, I can look over the course of my life. I can see how certain situations, and it boggles my mind. I'm like, I cannot believe this is my life. To see how certain events in my life actually interact and actually have connections in themselves. It's like, what the heck? So the way the system's designed is to keep you in the hamster wheel so that you're so at the whim of the trying to survive that you don't notice that that's not the system you were designed and born into. That the system, you can stop using the legal name. You can do whatever you want. But you have to what I am in the process of doing is putting it under a trust. And so that when I correct my status, I put them on notice. So for every time they utilize that legal fictional name again from that point forward, then they get fined. That's how you also develop credit and you bring money back to you. You're not necessarily going to be able to go in and reclaim all the monies of the trust that they have been holding because they've become the trust. What happens is at the age of 18, you're supposed to have reclaimed your trust. Up until the age of 25 is like a 7-year window. But because most of us didn't know this is what they used to teach back when we were schooled in schoolhouses and but unfortunately, when the governments got their hands on our education system, they made sure to not include the most important information that we need to know. So because they're the trust holders, they're sucking off of our trust fund left and right. Every time you go to court, every time you do something, they are making money off of you. You're their gambling tool. 𝐒𝐤.net, YouTube search. Let me write that down. I don't know that one, but anyway. So when you put them on notice, after you've corrected your status and you have everything set up in your trust, every time that they're defrauding, they're fraudulently utilizing your fictitious name, your 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐬𝐲 and all that. It's amazing because then you get to go, you owe me. And I don't know how all of that part works right now because I'm just at that point where I'm starting to get there. And then you can set yourself up. And if you're smart, you also will create a private ministerial, I don't know that terminology. You set up a private membership or private ministerial association, because what you do in the private sector is your business. And you know, it's between you and the individuals that you are conducting business with. And so you set it up as a private business, and therefore it's completely separate outside the system. There's more to it. I don't have all the answers at the moment, and I'm not going to talk about all that stuff here. I'm just trying to give you insight into the only way things are going to change is if we take personal responsibility, we take back the reins of our lives and control. And remember that the government is only us outsourcing them to rule our mind. And that's just insanity in itself. Okay, 𝐒𝐤 is Kate of Gaia. Oh, okay. Yeah. I have heard of that. Okay, thank you. There's a lot of information out there. But essentially, I'm going to go back to, even if you never did any of that stuff, there's a really important aspect regards to recognizing the languaging. That every form of legal tender, legal paperwork in the maritime admiralty law, in the legalese of all of the system, is fictitious characters playing this little, it's like a Monopoly game on paper. Everything's on paper. These entities, the state is a corporation. The government, the federal government, the United States of America Incorporated, like everything's a corporation. This is corporate law. This is public law. And so if you're going to operate in the public, you need to know the rules of the public law. If you're going to operate in the private, you also need to know those rules. So they're all fiction. If it's a corporation, it's a fictional character. So when you recognize that's a fictitious character that they're trying to get you to prove yourself to, you can turn around and go, okay, I'm more than willing and glad to comply with this, only if you can make sure that that character shows up in, I want to see mano a mano. Because if they cannot produce it, and they cannot, then the case is closed. You have no case if you're expecting me to show up, you're expecting me to prove myself. The other side, see, this is where people fail. And I go back to the witch trials. Nobody ever had the people who were claiming they were hunting the witches prove who they were. They claimed they were coming after the witches. That was actually just the story they were telling. What they did was convince, where's the meeting of the minds, right? They were able to convince people to allow them to inject the cow pus, vaka. You know, that's where the word vaccine came in, right? Latin people. They were able to convince people to allow them to poke them and provoke them with an injection of cow pus. Now, if you're a psychopath, if you're crazy, man, you think, if I can get them to allow me to poke them with that, imagine what else I can convince them to do. And from there, it's only gone downhill. Because now look at our world. Yeah. The BCCRSS. I don't know that. What is that? I'm always willing to learn more information. There is tons of information. But also remember, don't try to go down too many rabbit holes, because one thing I've learned, and I've shared with some other friends, nobody ever came out of the rabbit holes because they're endless. And when you go down them, that's just as much a distraction of the system designed specifically to keep you, again, distracted from living your life. We're here to have rich, meaningful, purposeful, driven lives. It is our God-given, inalienable right to the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. And what has been going on has been all about keeping you out of your power and outsourcing so that they gain your power. They feed off of you, and then you're left depleted and enslaved to the system. Just some small little nuggets of information. Yes. Free yourself from the form of the norm. Very much true. So, we are living, breathing organisms. We are amazing creations and beings. We are aspects of the divine incarnate. And there's really, all of us are one. And I know that's hard for people to understand or understand or overstand. You don't want to stand under. That just, it's disempowering. It's one thing to be on the same level. It's another to turn around and think you're lower or less than. Because we're all on the same level. Like, nobody is better than another. Nobody is favored by God more than another. I think that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. I always wondered about that. Like, this was a conversation I've been having for I don't know how long. I'm like, does anybody really think that God chooses favorites? Like, seriously. I mean, that in itself is just insanity. God is in all. If you can't see God in all, then you can't see God at all. And so here we are. It is about being your highest form of your sacred source of self. And that's an aspect of God, each and every one of us. On that note, I'm tired. I'm still working on this jet lag thing. I feel great though. It's good to be home. I got a whole lot of videos to kind of put together from my trips. And there's just a lot of information, a lot of fun stuff. Say you have so-called credit debt or a loan debt. Who is the injured party or one claiming the debt owed? A bank? No, it's a fake fictional entity, isn't it? And in reality, when you sign the paperwork, you're the only reason that it exists. So you technically gave them the credit, right? Yeah. You gave them the credit. So really, and people forget money's a debt instrument. Let's talk about that, right? Money is a debt instrument. And IOU is not riches. If anything, you want tangible assets. So it's good stuff. It's definitely a conversation that needs to be had more often. And the more of us that start implementing it in our lives and demonstrating it to others, more people will join. That's what's most important, is that we lead by example. Yeah, exactly. The money did not exist till the promissory note was signed. I know, and it's us. We are the actual currency. We are the commodity that is being traded. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Yeah, it's no loan. It's actually already paid for. Signed, sealed, and delivered. Isn't that funny? Funny money is what it is. All right. Thank you again for joining. Again, I am here to uplift, inspire, empower, support, and hopefully empower the rest of you all out there. Just like live your best life. Smash the like button, by the way. I know we're in the live, but smash the like button because, you know, if you like it, you should like it. And boost my algorithm by hitting the subscribe and the notifications bell because I don't know, sometimes you don't see my content. Sometimes you do. And the more you hit the buttons, it helps me too. It helps us all, you know. Be so kind and subscribe. All right. We all are, but you know, yeah. We'll get this done. It'll all happen. Happy part's not over anyway. Lots of love. Have sweet dreams. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Nighty night. Love you.